Was it chaotic in Vietnam? What was it like there? Was there any kind of control? I look at movies and it was like no, but who was in control?
Well, that depended on where you were at any one time and whoever took control.
Really? That's what it appears like, seemed like on television. Nobody was in control until somebody stood up and said, this is how it's going to be.
The people in Washington thought they were in charge, and then it went down from there until you got down to the guys getting shot at and shooting back, and then those are the ones that the real heroes. They're the ones that did the job. And the circumstances were different for everybody. I mean, you say you got a couple of heroes here. All those people are heroes that faced up to what they had to face.
But how did you receive missions? You know, in such a chaotic state like Vietnam, how do you how did you get the missions? Did people send missions to you that we had to take over this bridge, that we had to infiltrate this facility?
Yeah, as it structures down, Mike, that's exactly right. I mean, you've got an overall objective for a unit or a large army, for that matter, and something has to be done, and you break it down into pieces, and so it gets down to where you got a lieutenant, a captain, a sergeant, somebody in charge of other people and equipment that got to go kill those people that are trying to kill you. It really gets fundamental. I hadn't thought about it before, but almost like a boxing match or something, when it gets down into the core. And those are the guys.
How do you know where to find the enemy at?
They let you know when you get around them because they're starting to try to shoot at you.
But you don't know this town is the enemy's town? You don't know that at all?
Not really, usually. We would think
blindfolded, it's going in blind, huh?
Initially, I was an advisor with the Vietnamese Marines, and so I was advising the Southern Vietnamese against the enemy. And they usually kind of knew where they had to go and what they had to do, and then we were there as advisors to make sure that they had the wherewithal to do the mission, whatever they were trying to do.
How do you prepare for that? How do you train to be in the jungle that you're not familiar with, you never had any kind of inclination with? How do you prepare for that?
That's an interesting question, Mike. I thought about that a lot because you look back at the recent wars. You prepare, you learn the core traits, you learn your job. And then they just put you with that job into a terrain, into a war, if you will, Korea, Vietnam, the Mideast, where they are. You don't learn that area. You don't have time. You go in with your traits, you get a job, you figure it out, and you go do it. People that have not experienced that would have a lot of trouble understanding it because they talk about all the planning for war and combat, and once you launch and once those shots start firing, you got to throw the plans away because then you're dealing with your gut training, and that's why certain units stand out and other units and don't stand out, because they didn't get the training and the discipline.
True that.
Whoa. Well, can I just say I feel like a dickhead. Would you guys introduce yourselves with your ranking?
I'm a retired Marine, a retired lieutenant colonel. I was an artilleryman, and I retired a lot of years ago. I retired in 1975.
Wow. Not long after Vietnam.
Well, I was in Vietnam twice. I was an advisor once, and I was a battalion commander at the end of Vietnam. I had an artillery battalion that I brought out of Da Nang at the end of the war. And
are there friends there, men there you never forget?
There are a lot of friends that you never forget. Naturally, at my age, not many of them are around anymore. But no, when I was an advisor, the attrition rate was extremely high. Later, the attrition rate when I was there at the end was not so high. It was pretty quiet.
Have you ever seen the flamethrowers, those guns, before?
Yeah, I have. Happily, I've always been on the right end of them.
Yeah, have you saw them used before in combat?
Oh, yes. Yeah, at that time, we were using them quite a bit.
That had to have been such an inhumane
I always
weapon.
feel like the Vietnam War was probably the hardest war for any of us to fight. No one. What would your perspective on that be?
It's interesting you ask that question because wars are so different. I have a grandnephew that spent 7 or 8 tours in the current wars, and he and I have compared notes, and it was enlightening to both of us when we compared what happened, when and where, how the war was fought from an individual standpoint, not from a big strategic standpoint, but how the individual faced the situation. And as you say, Spencer, the Vietnam was very, very, very difficult. But what the people are facing today and have been facing in the last 20 years in the East are just, it's totally different, and totally different lethality, different weapons. And the Vietnam was different because of the canopy. You really couldn't see in the grass. I mean, you were blind for much of the time.